Welcome to Building Better Relationships with Chuck and Barb Lewis, equipping listeners and viewers with the biblical tools to conquer the difficulties faced in this life. Chuck has practiced crisis intervention since the 1980s and has been in ministry together with his wife Barb for over 20 years. They've taken the countless lessons and the knowledge they've acquired and have put them into this life skills class to share with you. We hope this blesses you.
Well, hello again. I'm Pastor Chuck Lewis, and this is my wife.
I'm Barbara.
And we're excited to be with you on another program of Building Better Relationships. And the reason why we have this program is to help you with your relationships. I know I always need help with our relationship, and
Me too.
and so we've learned a few tools and skills along the way that we not only teach about, but we try to practice as well.
Right.
It's a lot easier to teach about them than to practice them. But, when we do that, it really does work. So what's the topic today?
The topic today is you've lost that loving feeling.
Oh, gosh, you've lost that loving feeling. And boy, that's a common thing that a lot of people experience. And maybe you're experiencing that right now in your life. And you think, boy, how in the world are we ever going to get that back?
Right.
When we come together in a relationship, we meet somebody for the very first time. Boy, sometimes the sparks are flying. There's a lot of chemistry going on, and we're really looking forward to learning more about this person because we're so fascinated by them.
Right. We can't wait to be together.
Oh my goodness. And I remember when I first met you and asked you out, and you actually said, okay, or yes, or whatever you said. I don't remember now, but I was so excited because I was thinking, man alive, I'm nervous to just be around this gorgeous woman, more or less go out on a date with her. And when we went out
I'm
for
glad you felt that way.
well, yeah, I did. And we had to walk around the mall for a little while before we went to dinner because I told you, I said, I'm so nervous. I don't think I could even eat right now. And I think you said the same thing.
Yeah, I was definitely nervous too.
But the sparks were flying. And, when that's happening and there's so much chemistry going on, it's like neither one of you can say anything wrong.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because
You're just looking at each other in a whole different way.
Mhm.
Well, the purpose of our program today is to try to get that back if it's
Right.
gotten lost. And
Yeah.
I know I talk to a lot of couples that have lost that years ago, and they feel like it's not even possible to get that back.
That's
But it really is.
It really is. And I think the problem is too, is we go so much by our feelings. And I think it's important to know the true nature of love because God loves us, whether we perform well or not.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, let me read a little bit from the love chapter. It's 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. And it says, it describes the true nature of love. And it says, love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It's not proud. It does not dishonor others. It's not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. That's a big one. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, believes the best.
Yeah.
Believes the best about each other. It always perseveres. Love never fails. And so it doesn't say anything in there about if you feel it or not.
Yeah.
Because I think that first thing that you feel when you're attracted to somebody is, like you said, chemistry. It's euphoria.
Mm-hmm.
And what goes up must come down. And I remember having that incredible high when you and I met and having the crash too when we started dealing with issues. But, true nature of love is not based on feelings. It's a choice.
It is a choice. Yeah. And a lot of times we're waiting for the other person to do the tools and the skills, that really causes the relationship to thrive.
Right.
Well, that's great if you know what the tools and skills are,
Right.
but some people don't. and maybe you're watching and you think, well, I don't know what the tools and skills are. I don't even know what you're talking about. I know what tools and I know what tools in my garage are, but I don't
Yeah.
know, I don't know how to use half of them or whatever. Well, emotionally, it's kind of the same way.
Right. And we were actually talking about comparing a relationship to gardening, because if you don't nurture any relationship, it will die.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a friend or, the Lord or each other. And so, just like a garden, if you don't tend the garden, if you don't pull the weeds, if you're too busy to go out there and water it and make sure it has what it needs, then it's going to die. And I just wanted you to tell us, what do you think some weeds are that would be weeds in a relationship?
Well, weeds can be a lot of things like critical speaking toward each other,
Yeah.
pointing out each other's faults. I've had people say, "Well, somebody has to tell them about their faults, and I guess it's going to be me." Well, that has to be done in a very tactful way, because if you're closing each other's spirits by telling each other what's wrong with you, and you're not affirming each other, that can be real weeds that are crowding everything else out.
Right. And there might even be some good things in the garden of your relationship,
Uh-huh.
but weeds can get so big that they crowd out the good things.
Yeah.
And another weed is being too busy, working
Yes.
too much to have time. And I was thinking about how a garden has boundaries around it. There's a little fence around it. You keep the grass from growing into it and taking over.
Right.
You keep what's in the garden contained,
Yes.
and we need to guard our relationship with those boundaries too.
Right. Right.
And one thing that I've heard you mention too is relationships with the opposite sex. A friendship, a woman having a friendship with a man at work, or your husband having a relationship with another woman. I think that you really need to be careful about that when you're married.
Well, absolutely, all the time, but especially if you lost that love and feeling in your
Yes.
relationship, it's easy to start looking and being attracted to the another person anywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
and you strike up a conversation and you think, "Wow, I'm starting to feel the sparks with this person like I felt with my mate years ago, and I've lost that years ago. So now I'm gonna really put a lot of effort into this other relationship."
Yeah.
And that's exactly how affairs began. And I've had people say to me, when I started talking to this person and getting acquainted with him, it just seemed so innocent, and we weren't doing anything wrong. I mean, it just seemed completely harmless. And the next thing we know, we're in bed together,
Yeah.
and we're looking at each other, going, "How did this happen? I can't believe." And of course, if they're both married, they're feeling incredible guilt. And then the devil comes along and beats them over the head and says, "You're worthless, and look at how bad you are, and God doesn't even hear you when you pray, because look how you're living your life." And boy, the weeds just take over.
Yeah.
Basically.
Right.
Spiritually, emotionally, and with the relationship.
Yes.
And really setting those boundaries are not even, they're not only optional, but they're absolutely a necessity. If you want to keep that junk out of your
So
life,
they're not optional.
they're not optional.
Right.
You really have to purposely keep that out of your life and out of your relationship, because God wants us to contribute to each other in our relationship and make sure that we're standing watch over that relationship to protect it. That's my job, and that's your job.
Right. And I remember early in our relationship, we decided that if you were going to have a relationship with another woman, I needed to be part of it.
A friendship.
a friendship.
Yeah.
So we decided that if you were going to have a female friend, we both needed to be friends with her.
We both
Or
need-
if I was going to be friends with a man, you and I both were friends with that
Right,
person.
absolutely.
And we're both present and we're both talking and whatever. It's not something that we're doing on our own.
No, and it's not about putting chains around each other's ankles, but it's about contributing to that relationship and not contaminating it. And so anytime you do something that God will not bless, you're contaminating that relationship. You want to make choices that God is pleased with.
Yes.
And being together, talking to that person. I think it's okay to go out to dinner with that person if you're both husband and wife present.
Yes.
You take them out for dinner. We've got some single people that we take out for dinner once in a while, and we pay for their dinner, too. It's not like, well, I'm a pastor, so you should pay for my dinner. No, sometimes, it's ministering to them, but we do it together.
Right.
We do it together. That's the key.
And another biggie for a relationship that can be a weed is, excuse me, swearing, especially using the Lord's name in vain, because when you say GD, and I'm not even going to say it, you're speaking a curse over someone or something. So don't destroy a relationship with your words.
Right.
Debt can definitely be a big weed in a garden, but also sarcasm. Sarcasm, what I've seen people do sometimes with sarcasm is they're really angry at their spouse, but they don't have the guts to communicate directly with them, and maybe don't know how to do it in a kind way. And so they'll make sarcastic comments. And then if their spouse says something about it, you can just say, "Oh, I was just kidding." And so sarcasm can be a way to get a jab, but that closes a person's spirit too.
Oh yeah. Well, and when there's a lot of sarcasm, that's an indication that they've lost respect for that person.
Right.
And if you've lost respect for that person, you're going to cut them down. You're gonna make fun of them. You're going to talk to other people about them in a derogatory way.
Right.
And all of those things are weeds.
Yes.
That choke out the garden.
Right. And so now we want to talk about how to kill those weeds, how to get rid of those weeds. And I found a really good verse in Revelation 2. God is speaking to the churches, and one of the churches in Ephesus. So what he does first, it's Revelation 2, verses 2 and 3. First, he tells them what they've done right. He said, "I know your works, your patience, you hate evil." He was telling them how they persevere and they haven't given up. And so the first two verses, he's telling them what they did right. Then he says, "Yet I hold this against you. You have forsaken the love that you had at first. And you consider how far you've fallen, repent." And then he tells them, "Do the things you did at first." So to rekindle love, what he's telling them is you need to tell your spouse the things that they've done right. If we use this verse as an example on how to have a relationship, is we need to tell each other the things that we do right. And we need to go back and do the things that we first did when we were newly in relationship, where we were going on dates. We were taking the time to talk to each other. And, one thing we did that I think is a really big weed killer is affirmation.
Oh my goodness.
So why don't we talk some about how to affirm each other?
Well, that's a big one. And you might have just heard that and say, okay, I heard you say you need to affirm each other. I don't even know what that means.
Yes.
See, so maybe you don't even know words of affirmation. Maybe you never heard them growing up. Like me, I never heard words of affirmation growing up. So what I had to do is I had to learn what they were. And I had to start writing down words that affirmed the other person, really encouraged them. And then I had to memorize those words. I didn't even know, how to speak them. So you can't give what you don't have. So I had to learn the words, give them to myself, and then I could start giving them to other people.
You know, that's such a good point, is thinking about what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. Give what you need.
Mhm.
And the Lord told me to start opening the door for people. And I purposely wait. If I see somebody headed for the door, I'll wait until they get there and I will open the door for them. And the Lord's taught me to say, sometimes people say thank you and sometimes people don't even say thank you. But even if they don't say thank you, I will say you're worth it.
Mm.
And I'm telling you that has been an anointed statement, because the response I've gotten from people has been incredible, because the minute I've spoken that, whenever they walk through the door and I say you're welcome and you're worth it, or you're just worth it, I've had people literally break down and begin to cry.
Right, because so many people don't feel worthy, or
Oh,
they've been treated bad and they don't feel valuable.
absolutely. This whole world is deprived from affirmation, and is dehydrated, as it were, emotionally, from the lack of affirmation
So
and
affirmation is encouraging words.
encouraging
It's
words.
noticing what's right about each other, whether that's
Yes,
character qualities, how you look today.
yes,
You affirm me a lot, and I really appreciate that. It
Mhm.
just gives me more confidence.
That's
So
great.
what confidence builders can we give for each other? And I I see these things as sowing seeds.
Hmm.
And one thing I learned about a bamboo plant is you can plant a bamboo plant, and bamboo grows underground, forming roots for 3 years.
Wow.
And it's actually 5 years before anything appears above the ground.
So it doesn't look like anything's happening.
It looks like absolutely nothing is happening.
Wow.
And then once bamboo gets above ground or breaks into the sun, it can grow like 90 feet in like 5 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks.
Isn't that incredible?
So it's really amazing. And so I want to encourage people to sow seeds
Yes.
into your relationship. And those seeds in your relationship garden would be the affirmation, encouragement, spending time together, looking for what's right about each other, being patient. And one biggie for us is just be kind all the time, even if you need to resolve an issue, which we definitely encourage people to do, is not to empty that scorecard of wrongs,
Yes.
that toxic waste bank, and resolve things with each other. But don't grow weary in sowing those positive seeds
Right.
into your relationship, because it will bear fruit if you don't grow weary
Yes.
in doing it. And there's a book by the Kendricks brothers called The Love Dare. And they give you something to do every day for 40 days to sow love into your relationship. And you can do it without telling your spouse that you're doing it, so that they don't think, oh, you're just doing those positive things because you're reading it and you're being told to.
Yeah. Or you want something.
Right. Or you can get the book and do it together,
Mhm.
and have fun seeing who can outdo the other person in expressing these things of love. But it gives you some ideas
Yeah.
of ways that you can express love to each
Oh,
other.
absolutely. And I want to say something else about that example of the bamboo plant. While all those years are going by, you're not seeing a thing happen, but there's this incredible root system growing under the ground
Yes.
that you're not seeing at all.
Yes.
But if it wasn't for that root system, when that grows 90 feet, it would just fall over without that root system.
Such a good point.
Yeah. So maybe you're sowing things into your wife or husband or your girlfriend or boyfriend, and you're not seeing any results at all. Sometimes when people hear affirmation, they don't say a word.
Or they can't receive it because they feel so bad about themselves.
Or they'll say, well, why do you say those kind of things to me? Don't say those kind of things, because it feels uncomfortable if you're not used to receiving them.
Yes.
So, if I hand you a gift,
Yes.
I count on you to take that gift
Yes.
and open it up. But if I hand you a gift and you look at that and say, why would you give me such a thing? What are you doing to me? Are you just trying to make me feel worse about myself or whatever? Well, that would be a very horrible response, but a lot of people do that because they don't know what to do with affirmation. I remember I was speaking in a convention one time, and an astronaut was speaking there also, and he complimented my suit. And I said, oh, I've had this thing for 5 or 7 years or whatever. And then he said something that changed my life forever. He said, why did you just destroy my compliment? And I thought, oh my God, I've not only offended a guy, but I've offended an astronaut of all people. And he said, all you had to do is say thank you. But I thought that if I received it, I would be prideful. But there's a difference between good pride and bad pride, and we'll talk about that on another program. But
yes,
receive the affirmation today from your other person. You don't have to feel it to receive it. You receive it by faith that it's true. Don't let your mind say, this is a bunch of baloney. I don't know what you're saying this for. No, receive it by faith, and receive it through God, because God is the one that taught us how to affirm, and he's saying that to us all the time. Right. Well, our time is gone. Oh my goodness, it went so fast. But we will look forward to seeing you again next time.
Yes. God bless you.
If you are blessed by this ministry, please subscribe, like, and share. You can also make donations at chucklewisministries.com. Join us to keep uncovering the tools to build better relationships together. Let's do this again next week.